The station of the stars. RTI.
That'll be us then. Welcome, one and all, wherever you happen to be on the planet. Could be Planet Zog, knowing me. But this is Postcard from Poprad. I'm Eric Wiltshire. We're at the base of the lovely snow-covered Tatry Mountains. They're beautiful. They're absolutely fab, glorious and wonderful. And we've got a packed show for you today, including an MEP talking. Gosh. That's rather, well, it is rather, isn't it? And somebody we tried so hard to get rid of. Couldn't even pay the flipping border guards enough money to get rid of him. He got back in. It's Lee.
Hello, everybody. Just a quick hello to a new listener.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Thomas.
Yes.
Or Thomas. Or Thomas. Thomas. That'll do.
Where's he from?
Where's he from? The Hoishi Sushi in Poprad.
He's from Poprad.
Eh?
So it's Tomash.
Thomas. Yeah, he's
And
listening.
you
He
really-
said he'll be listening today. He listens to RTI and he wants to play it in his gaff.
Well, you can, Tomash.
Yeah, you can,
Dobry
Tomasz.
den, Tomash.
Tomasz.
Ako Samaja.
Finish
Nie
now.
może być
Hey?
velmi dobry. No?
Dobry
Super.
den.
Yeah. No.
Prosim.
No. Oh, dear. You do try, don't you? But you're never going to win. Hello, Rach.
Hello, Rach.
Hello, everybody.
Say Dobry denya.
Dobry denia.
No, that's
Whoa.
wrong. It's wrong.
That was pretty good, Rach. Don't listen to him.
No, it's Dobry den.
Dobry denya.
Dobry den.
That's beautiful, Rach.
No, that's the Dubry
Thank you.
brothers.
That's what?
The Dubry brothers.
What?
The Doobie Brothers.
That's
Dobry.
just silly. Uncle Lee's being silly.
Oh,
I
I'm
think
so
he's been
sorry.
bonkers.
I gotta tell you. Do you want to hear some interesting news from Melbourne?
No.
Yes, please.
I got it. Well, do you or don't you?
Yes, please.
It was a lovely, mild / scorching, Hades ruining 38 degrees here today, and it's now 11 p.m. and guess what temperature it is?
No.
28.
31.
Wow.
Oh, that's hot.
Summer is here, and it is really being.
Oh, listen to
Not
listen
very
to
nice.
this one. Listen to this one. Summer's here, and the time is right for dancing in the street.
She's just being silly now.
Nobody can dance in the streets in this weather. It is just.
Of course you
hot.
can. Don't be so soft. Do you know what weather is here? Do you know what it was last night?
Where?
Here. In
Better
Poprad.
than here. I love
Nobody
the
did
cold
ya?
weather.
It was minus 49.
It was not.
I would choose that over this any day.
It was not minus 49.
It was blinking cold.
It was
You
cold.
said it doesn't get cold there, Uncle Lee. Are you lying to me?
No, it does. It gets very cold here, but it's a sharp coldness. It's a coldness of joyousness. If you can have that.
I remember, and I yearn for it. I don't care for this hot weather. I truly don't.
No, it isn't. No, cold's better than hot, isn't it?
I have
I mean,
no idea what
it's
he's
easier to
rabbiting
get
on
warm
about.
than it is to get cooler. I reckon.
He's just being rude to me again, Rach. I'm fed up with him now. I'm not talking to him.
It
You should go on
was.
strike.
It was something like. Ciao, Caroline. It was something like -2 last night.
Yeah. So what did I say?
-4.
Minus 49.
Yes.
Well, who's right then? Prove it.
Well, that would be Uncle Eric probably because
Yes.
I mean, you're not in Santa's land. You're not.
No.
You're not the North Pole.
No. Say hello to
Or in
Karen. Everybody,
Russia.
say hello to Karen.
Who?
Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Who's Karen?
Karen, she's a lovely lady.
Carrie.
I don't, it's,
Oh,
why is
hello,
she called,
Karen.
is she called Karen or Karen?
Karen.
With an I and an
Karine.
R
So
N
she's
at the end.
so she's a bit of both.
Carin.
Hello, Karen. That's
Yeah.
a really nice name. Where are you from, Karen? I like you.
She's from just up the road from here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen.
Shall we do some practice in Slovak for him?
Yeah, let's do some practice.
So you can say.
I'm not saying anything because you've been telling me all sorts of things to say, so that I won't.
Just say to Karen Milarchik.
What does that mean?
Just do it.
Say it again.
Karen Milarchik.
Because you're saying it first, so you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Karen Milarchik.
You just said Karen, my love.
Karen Milarchik.
There you go. You
Right.
see? Perfect.
Spiegelgesicht.
No, that's German.
My kleine Kartoffel.
Can I say it? Can I say it to Karen in Australian?
No, because that'll be what you are, a thespian.
No. I'll say the same thing in Australian to Karen.
Yeah.
Karen, you're a top Sheila.
You're a top Sheila. Karen's really going to get that. Oh, I love it to bits. Right, anyway, let's get on with some stuff, as they say in all the good books, or not as the case may be. George H.W. Bush, the former US president, was buried this week, which is rather sad, really, isn't it? But he did live till he's 94.
Why is it sad?
Well, when anybody dies, it's sad.
Well, it's sad when somebody dies, but really, he made a lot of people die in the first place, so maybe he shouldn't be allowed to go and join them.
Yeah, I don't feel real comfortable about him, really. I'm sort of a bit iffy about this. So I think he was responsible for a lot of badness.
Yeah. He started something that we've still not finished. He started it in the early 1990s and it's still going on, and he was really the kernel of the war of terror that we are now facing. And he devastated a country, he devastated everything. I'm not saying that this isn't, I'm taking one side or the other, both sides were bad. And he did something that his son, with that little idiot Blair, went out and compounded.
The only thing he didn't do properly was go into Iraq.
Well, yeah, he just messed
He
about.
sort of stopped halfway, but there you go.
And let's just say something else. What an awful performance by his son at his father's funeral, where he did his John Wayne walk across the thing, patted the coffin like it was a pet dog.
They do that in America.
And went up on the podium and did a pretend sob.
Do you know what they do here?
What? See if they're in.
No, they actually knock on the
Anybody
coffin.
home?
Yeah, they knock on the coffin. It's actually
what?
respectful, apparently.
I think it is respectful.
I'll give you a little snippet. It's actually, I'll tell this very quickly, but it's quite interesting. When they invaded, when they invaded in the first place in '91, whenever it was, I was actually working in Sydney for a gentleman who's a gorgeous man. It's still one of my dear friends today, and he's an Iraqi, and his family was still there, and it was amazing. That seeing it from his perspective was really interesting, and the grief and the worry and the trying to get his family out and all that kind of stuff. So I was watching it from his perspective, not necessarily from the Allies' perspective, and it always touched me in a certain way. And these were just, people minding their own business, and they were caught up in a debacle. But it was a horrible thing to happen in the first place. They didn't get anywhere. They didn't achieve what they wanted to, and it just when he died and all the pomp and I know he's an ex-president, and there's a whole lot of stuff that goes with that. But the outpouring of he was so this and he was so that. I'm thinking, really, was he?
I think the Americans have this unbelievable way of paying tribute to people. The other one that always gets me, Rach, when you look at the House of Representatives or especially the Senate, some dignitary goes and talks there, they get 2 sentences out and there's a standing ovation. And it carries on all the way through, and I don't understand it.
It would be funny if George W. Bush had got a standing ovation, wouldn't it?
It would have been rather, wouldn't it? Anyway, we move on. Coronation Street actor Peter Armitage, in which case we pass over to Lee.
Well, actually, I knew him quite well from my time working on newspapers in Manchester. He was always about. He was a good drinking, unfortunately, a heavy smoking lad who was just good fun. He played Bill Webster in Coronation Street for a long time, and I can't remember who he's the dad of. Oh, that Kevin Webster person, the world's worst actor. He was his dad in the show, and
it's gone straight over my head.
Yeah, I got no idea.
Because you have no knowledge of popular culture, and
that's not fair. I do. I have lots of knowledge of popular culture, and I still don't know what you're rambling on about.
Yeah, and he was just a good egg, and it's really sad. He got serious health problems, and at 78 they shuffled him off this mortal coil. Very sad, very nice man, good fun to be with.
Absolutely, and Lee hasn't got his list up, so I'll do it for him.
I can remember it.
What, you remember all the
I've got a photographic memory.
It's
underdeveloped.
Well, wait a minute. Can I sneak one in that you guys both forgot, even though I did send it to you during the week?
Uh-oh.
What's that?
Judy McBurney.
Oh,
I
blimey.
was looking for that. I couldn't find it, Rach, so I forgot about it.
Well, that's when you write to Rach and you say, "Hey, Rach, where's the link? I've lost it." But you know, it's neither. I'm going to scold you, but it's neither here nor there now. Judy McBurney. Judy McBurney would be known to people in the UK and around Europe as Pixie Mason from Cell Block H.
Yes.
And she was gorgeous, beautiful to look at, gorgeous woman, but also really lovely. I met her a couple of times and she was just the most delightful woman, really full of joy and life. She had that lovely mellifluous tone in her voice and she was just so wonderful and joyful. And she passed away after a 4-year battle with cancer, which is just too long for someone to be sick. And she's only 70 years old, which is not old at all.
No.
God love you, Judy.
Good on you, Judy. Random Human, which is what he puts on the chat room, says, "I like the bear's hat." I suppose it is rather nice, isn't it?
Teddy.
It's quite random, and it's not on a human.
What's Teddy wearing? I can't see.
He's wearing a green trilby hat.
Oh, that's very, very Teddy, though.
He looks like an ecological spiv.
He looks one. That's my.
He looks like a what?
A spiv.
An ecological spiv because it's green.
And he's got his.
What's a spiv?
Well, do you not know what a spiv is?
No, it's a bit old.
I don't.
Really.
Oh, don't be so rude.
It is old-fashioned.
A con man. Somebody who...
Someone like Lee.
Yeah.
Oh, a confidence person, a trickster, a charlatan.
What do you call them in Auslan, then?
Can't say it on the radio.
No, you can't really, can you? No.
Do you want to know?
They typically deal in dodgy antiques as well.
I used to do that. You know that Declan Donnelly off Celebrity Get Me Out of Here?
Oh, yeah.
He says that all Australians are perverts, and he keeps saying it on the telly. Shall we get him?
Is he the one that's drunk?
No, the other one.
No, he's the sober one, the one who's kept his job. He should be taken off the air. Without
the little one.
Yeah, without his partner, he is absolutely diabolically terrible. And good on Willie Hollaby, or Hollaby Willoughby.
Or Holly Willy Booby.
Isn't he trying to host that Britain's Got Talent by himself or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad. You can't have one without the other, really, can you?
The trouble with him is, I mean, we have us three, not the royal we, but us three, we have an amazing chemistry on the radio, which works.
That's right.
But all of us individually can hold the programme, whereas I don't think he can.
No, and what a tragedy that this man, talking about popular culture, that this man is one of our highest paid entertainers.
Indeed.
And without Willie Hollaby, he wouldn't be able to actually hold the show together.
I can't get Holly Willy Booby out of my head.
I know I can't get Willie Hollaby now.
Well, maybe, but to be fair to him, you guys fall apart when I'm not there.
Oh, touche.
You'll fall apart without me next week. I won't be with you next week. You'll have to fall to bits.
Well, you can talk to Lee.
Yeah, you're talking to me.
I'll be talking to Lee, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Pete Shelley, who was the lead singer of the punk band Buzzcocks, which were not very famous at the time, but they became infamous because of a TV show, Never Mind the Buzzcocks.
They've always been famous. Rachel,
please.
the Buzzcocks are not famous.
I don't know who they are, but that's not so famous.
That serves you right, doesn't it? Serves you right.
It's sad. He was another good, hard-drinking wild man of rock and roll. And at the age of 63, he's disappeared off this.
Had a heart attack.
Yeah. Tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good
That's very young.
He's very, very young. We move on to the campaigns, just to remind you about them, and some from CWF as well. We are urging you all to write to your MPs from now on. Not email. Don't phone their surgeries. Write to them. And we've put a list. We should get lists from other countries, actually, because they are available, on facebook.com/RTI Radio. And there is a link there where you can find your MP in the UK and you can write to them, because we're going to annoy them.
Well, yes, and when he's finished spouting off about it, I'll tell you something really important that really everybody who's listening to this show should write to their MP about.
Well, go on then.
Oh, can I do it now?
Yeah.
You're so kind. You're so
I try.
handsome as well. And, yes, no. We are fighting, the Consumer Watch Foundation is fighting for an ancient hall called Huff Hall, which is collapsing. It's been abandoned for nearly 20 years and it is actually collapsing. We think we found the owner. The owner won't come forward at the moment. The Heritage of England, or whatever it's called, the English Heritage people, I've forgotten what they call themselves now, have washed their hands of it and said that there's nothing they can do to save it. Well, they're the people who made it a Grade 2 listed building. The City Council, Manchester City Council, have said, oh, it's a tragedy, there's nothing we can do about it, though. But what has happened through the pages of CWF, the Consumer Watch Foundation, is that the town it stands on is a little downtrodden town called Moston in the suburbs of Manchester. There are 14,000 people who live there, and within 24 hours, actually less, but say within a day, over 4,000 people in that town, that's 20% nearly of the population of that town, have contacted the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com to try and find a way of saving this hall. If there's anybody out there who's listening to this show now who actually understands about Grade 2 listed buildings and the history of Britain and wants to try and help fight for Huff Hall in Moston, please contact the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com and jump on board.
Absolutely. We are going to now play you a piece of audio from the EU, one of the MEPs there. And I want you to listen very carefully to what he says, because it is incredibly, incredibly important. So just take a listen.
And I would like to say some words on the Global Compact on Migration. On the 10th and 11th of December, there will be an international congress in Marrakesh, Morocco, with regard to this Global Compact on Migration. And the participating countries are set to sign this agreement. And although this joint agreement isn't binding, it's still meant to be the legal framework on which the participating countries commit themselves to build new legislation. And one basic element of this new agreement is the extension of the definition of hate speech. The agreement wants to criminalize migration speech. Criticism of migration will become a criminal offense. And media outlets, and that also concerns you, that give room to criticism of migration can be shut down. The Compact for Migration is legalization of mass migration. It's declaring migration as a human right. So in fact, it will become impossible to criticize Ms. Merkel's welcome migrants politics without being at risk to be jailed for hate speech.
I'm breathing very carefully here.
Would you like me to say something?
I think you better before I rant.
Well, I suppose I'm going to have a rant in a way, but actually, yes, the way this is being presented is way over the top. Nigel Farage, of course, jumped on the bandwagon yesterday. Air One TV carried a piece about it. CNN have been on the case, and yes, on the face of it, is quite a frightening piece of legislation. But really, I have found nothing in this legislation that says if your comment is fair, then you will be closed down. Any kind of hate speech has always been
Yeah, but
illegal.
they're making the words of you shouldn't have migration would be classified under the law as hate speech.
If you said you shouldn't have migration, yes, that would still, even now, be hate speech. What it is, if you said you shouldn't have migration because of this, that's a different thing, because that's an opinion.
Saying there shouldn't be migration is not hate speech, it's just an opinion.
Yeah, but there is no explanation to it. What I'm saying is, within this legislation...
I'm confused.
Well, there's no explanation. It's like saying, I don't like a certain race of people. That's it. That's racist. If you say, I don't like a certain race of people because of this, and the legitimate point you make after that...
Could I say, I don't like migration because we can't afford it?
I would think that you should be able to say that, yeah. And if not, then the legislation is as bad as you feel. But you should be able to say that, yes.
It's an unqualified statement. So if you just say, I don't like migration, and then you leave the room, you've not qualified what you mean.
Right.
Yeah. And
you can't do that. That's inflammatory.
Is it?
Yeah, that is inflammatory. Yeah. And Nicholas, whatever he's called, Farage, he jumps on the bandwagon yesterday.
Yeah.
And even though he's made this very clever political move of divorcing himself from UKIP because of Tommy Robinson, he still used this in a way that extols the virtues of what he thinks, which are very questionable. What I'm saying is that at this moment, this document, and I'm accusing my profession as well, have jumped on the bandwagon and made it sound very, very scary. And potentially it is. What I'm saying at the moment is that what they are saying is illegal. And like Rachel has just confirmed from what I said, if you give a reasoned argument, not a racist rant, then you should be allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. But the interesting, well, I say interesting, in the loosest terms, Austria, Australia, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czechia, not the Czech Republic anymore because it's changed its name, Hungary, Italy, Israel, Poland, Slovakia and Switzerland have already stated they will not sign the agreement, which means I can sit here and say what I said before, and nobody can touch me with a barge pole. And yet somebody in England, because unless the UK's pulled out, and I don't know about it, somebody in the UK could say the same thing, and they would be a criminal.
Well, the countries you've named as pulling out are all countries that have very rigorous policies towards immigration. And Britain doesn't, which is why we've basically got Brexit. Yeah, we're far more liberal on these things. And like I say, if in fact this legislation will be used to shut people up talking about migration, so you can't talk about boat people coming across into Australia, you can't talk about whatever goes on, then it is a fallacious legislation and needs destroying and stopping. At the moment, it is only reaffirming what actually stands.
Is it?
It's really just an inflammatory piece of paper, and it's not. It doesn't really serve any real purpose to any good end.
No, I would say that this is a racist piece of legislation, actually.
Right, and I mean, the government that currently is in power in this country, and won't be for much longer, thank goodness. But they are really anti-immigration and very much but they're quite happy to lock people up in cages offshore and things like that.
So why would they be scared of this legislation, Rachel?
Because the reason why they're terrified is because they can't go around doing what they want willy-nilly without coming into question. It's just, and that's the thing. It's not. It doesn't serve any real purpose other than to allow people to sort of be hateful, and that's what.
Yeah.
Well, Chris has just said. I think the UK said they would sign, but 110,000 signatures already are saying no. So it's getting quite dramatic. And the other thing here, the former Slovak foreign minister, Miroslav Jacek, has decided to resign in protest. The Parliament's decision yesterday to reject the UN Pact on the treatment of migrants. That's a message from his ministry. And it was a vote that was taken in Parliament. And I kind of get it in a strange way because, you know, what people have to remember is Slovakia is a tiny, weeny country.
Yeah, agreed.
5.5 million people, 99.999 reoccurring are Catholic. If you just let other people come in, they just won't fit unless they become part of the community here, which is sometimes very hard for people. Not a criticism. It is
I
just
agree
sometimes
with you.
hard.
I 100% agree with you on that score, but it's very different prospects for people wandering into Slovakia versus somebody wandering into the UK or Australia or wherever. We are already a multi-religious, multicultural melting pot in our society that we have currently. However, you guys don't, and I totally understand. I think walking over borders into Slovakia would be very perilous, and and that's dangerous, especially when religion factors in so strongly. But in Australia and in the UK, you've got how many different religions are represented in huge numbers? How many different types of
well, you know what the interesting... I'll give you an interesting fact on your exact point, Rach, that since the migration into the UK from the EU, the Christian community became the largest community again, which it wasn't before.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, but the reason why Slovakia doesn't want people crossing into their borders is very different than the reason why Australia doesn't want people crossing into theirs. I think that the spirit in which it's coming from in Australia is just one filled with fear, ignorance and hatred, as opposed to, I don't think anybody's full of fear, ignorance and hatred in Slovakia. In fact, I think it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
But it is such a different place and such a special community that you have that is very specific to certain people, and that's not the case with us. It's everybody's welcome. So come on in. If you mean us harm, or you plan to come here and suck up our resources and not contribute, or if you mean to come here and refuse to learn any kind of English or join in our communities and be peaceful and loving and giving, then don't come here. However, if you would like to come here for an opportunity, come.
Yeah,
but that's not the way our government sees it.
No, but I think that the slight difference here, and I've said it in so many mediums, and I've said it on here so many times, the way that Slovakia works, I get it. I really do get it, because until you contributed to the country, you cannot have free medical care. You cannot have a free house. You can't go on a housing list. You can't get social benefits. You can't just turn up here and do nothing. So the problem that people have is assuming that you can just turn up here and somebody will look after you. That isn't the case even for Slovaks. Slovaks don't work like that. And so if the country and the citizens don't work like that, you can't bring people in, because all it will bring with it is loads of unrest. Because they will say, well, how come they're getting all for nothing and we have to work?
But they wouldn't get it, so it wouldn't happen.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's right. But this legislation, which is the thing we're talking about, people who've objected to the legislation, said they won't sign it, are the people who want a vociferous voice or platform against migration. And they're the ones who are afraid that this legislation will stop them. What the legislation actually says is we need to just remember that the biggest influx of migrants are from from all over the world, particularly the Middle East and Africa, where there is rabid poverty. Now, what we need, rather than legislation like this and fear-mongering like this, is some sort of cogent policy which will help people who really are in need. And Spain is one of the places that could actually do this. It needs its economy boosting. It has millions of empty properties. It could, and if the EU, the ridiculous EU, actually focused its way, instead of coming up with ridiculous legislation, we could actually do something to solve this problem.
Why not? You did really, didn't you? Or the other option, which just sprung into my head because of what you're saying, surely it would be better to go to the countries where they're coming from, help them to redesign the country so they don't need to come in the first place.
Well, that goes back to aid, doesn't it? We're sending all this money out.
No, I don't think you should just send money.
No, I don't. No, I agree with you.
The problem is...
Yeah, but you can't stop, you can't stop drought. You can't stop famine. You can't stop war. You can't stop all these things. They are beasts unto their own. And I mean, redesign is a great idea, but these even problems in some of these countries are even bigger than that.
But if you don't start, you're never going to get anywhere. And I think the problem is nobody's. I mean, I remember having this conversation with a mate of ours, Tommy Walsh, and we were talking about water aid, which we're very proud to support. And in a lot of villages, there was a drought. Once water aid had been there, and admittedly they had to take drilling rigs and all sorts of stuff there, really heavy duty stuff. There was no more drought anymore because the water is actually there. It's just too far down for people to get to it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And it is very, very difficult. But where these villages are, and the second one was a wonderful thing, and I'd never seen one before, a solar-panelled fridge freezer. Brilliant! Because it enabled them to keep medicines for the nurse. She was able to talk to the doctor on some walkie-talkie or whatever, and because they had solar power, they were enabled to have the internet through some wireless connection, I guess using a microwave dish. So she could actually send pictures of illnesses. The doctor could tell her what to prescribe. She could go to the fridge freezer, because there was no electric before, and give the local people the drugs needed to make them better. And I've got to say, I just thought that was brilliant.
It is. All this stuff is brilliant, but it's not the big fix that the world needs.
I think we need some medicine for Rach.
I know, I could hear you.
I'm
Rach,
so
right,
sorry.
But we're a tribal.
I'm terribly sorry.
We're a tribal world, and within the tribal colour of our societies, we don't like other people, other tribes, and that is a despicable thing. That is the point to start educating people, like we did in the 70s and the 80s. We educated people to understand and accept other tribes, other people.
I haven't got a problem with that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's your starting point. Rather than send them a bit of a fridge freezer or a bit of a pipe.
No, but you've got
start at the beginning.
You've
Teach,
got a logical strategy.
Oh yeah, I agree. We all
know,
agree.
and I think aid is the worst thing you can ever do, because what you're
You
doing.
never know what's going to happen with that money half the time.
It's my old adage. What you've basically done is sent the guy a fish, when what he really needs is a fishing net.
Yeah.
So if he's got a fishing net, he can be a very proud man and feed his family. If you give him a fish, all he can do is give his family a fish. There's no pride in it.
But also teach him to respect the people who live round the corner.
Of course.
We've got tribalism in London now. We have people stabbing other people because they live in a different postcode. That's outrageous in this time of the life of the earth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Hi, Gatsby. How are you? Long time no see. I want to put out a little appeal, if I may now, because it is getting to winter time, and the NHS and blood transfusion units are warning that missed appointments could hit blood stocks over the Christmas period. And it's really important because last year 1 in 10 people just didn't turn up for an appointment to give blood. Now, that being the case, there are accidents at Christmas, unfortunately, and unfortunately, some of the biggest volume of accidents in the UK are actually DIY accidents, people cutting their fingers open and when they're doing woodworking and stuff. So please, if you are, or you are considering, or you've booked an appointment to go to the blood transfusion unit at the NHS, please go. And wherever you are in the world, if you haven't done, and I can promise you, if you ask anybody who knows me well, I am the biggest scaredy cat of needles you've ever seen on the planet. I'm actually sweating, literally sweating, even thinking about the subject, because I could see a syringe in my head. Well, not physically in my head, but,
What's a syringe doing in your head?
I don't know. Hello, Joe. And as soon as I see one on the television, I go all wobbly. I am absolutely panicky about them.
Sit down, it'll settle down then.
Yeah, and one day, because when I was born I had yellow jaundice and I had to have a blood transfusion, or I wouldn't be able to annoy you now, I decided to go and give blood, and I went it was summertime, I was in a light grey suit, because I was working posh then, and by the time I'd finished, my light grey suit was dark grey. And apparently I nearly passed out twice, and the nurse said, "You don't have to do this." I said, "I've got to." I must do this to repay the debt from before. Now, if I can do that, and I'm a big girly over it, you can all do it.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with a little prick in your hand.
Uncle Lee, it's a bigger prick than you think, but it's really not that scary, and you shut your eyes and they give you a nice cookie at the end and some juice.
And some juice.
Oh,
Oh,
We get a
all right.
buffet. You should come to Australia and
Really?
give blood. Yeah, you get a whole buffet. It's like a whole thing set up.
You get
We
a nice
don't
cup of tea and a
unfortunately
biscuit
get
in
the
Britain.
and Uncle Lee will understand how much this hurts me. We don't get a sausage at Bunnings. We got onions, but
Joe says, well, it's only a small prick. Well, you know what that's like. Ha, ha, ha.
too late. I just did that joke.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Joe. O2 has said that its 4G network is now back in operation again. And a little birdie tells me, because I've got a secret bloke,
ew.
secret bloke.
Does Martina know?
Yes.
Keep him in the cupboard.
Yeah, only let him out now and again. I have to keep.
That's kidnapping, you know.
I throw red meat in every now and again for him. And
no.
Call the police immediately, everybody. Call the police. What happened to poor old O2?
Yeah, poor old O2. Anyway, it was the blame game started instantly. They blamed Ericsson. And a little birdie tells me it was a piece of not necessarily bad software, but a piece of software that had run out of its licensing time, therefore stopped.
It's an interesting point here, if I may tell something that most people don't really know. In the UK, one of our erstwhile writers at the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com, Brendan Hanrahan, called me
The
yesterday.
Brendan Hanrahan?
That's it, the
Blimey.
Brendan Hanrahan, who now writes for the ConsumerWatchFoundation.com on a regular basis, but has another article going in next week. Phoned me, he didn't phone me, we don't do phoning anymore, do we? Messaged me to say that he was at, I think he was at the Times.
I bet you dial people as well, don't you?
I do as well if I can. But anyway, he was at the Times and he was telling me that the whole of the production of the Times had been totally disrupted by this failure.
Well, that's a really testing point because it wasn't just O2 that got knocked out. It was Sky Mobile, Tesco Mobile, Lycra Mobile, GiffGaff. And people often laugh at me because I do love my technology, as anybody will tell you. And they say, the question is, what's the best cloud to store stuff? I said, what? What do you mean, what's the best cloud to store stuff? And they said, well, where's the best cloud to store stuff? So,
Nimbus.
So I have no idea. Yeah, but
Cumulus Nimbus.
But you're Eric. You should know this stuff. And I go, but I don't use the cloud.
Still didn't shut him up though, did it?
No, it doesn't.
Nah.
And the bottom line is, the reason I don't use cloud storage because if the internet goes down for any reason, I can't access any files. So I keep them all backed up on hard drives.
So do I.
Now.
Since you give me one.
Yes.
A hard drive.
Would it be fair to say, though, with this, is it that did O2 just run out of oxygen?
I haven't heard that joke, Rach. That's good.
That's a new one.
That is a new one.
I'm going to nick it.
Yeah.
Please do, because you know what? We don't have O2.
I think that Rach is going to kill me for this. This is the best one I've heard.
What?
Man came home last night, Rach.
Yeah.
He said, darling, the house is beautiful. Was O2 down today?
Oh!
Here's one, a quick one.
Uh-oh.
A quick one. I went in the house last night and said, darling, I can't smell anything burning. She says, no, because I made you a salad.
Your wife is listening.
Is she? She must be in the cafe.
You'll be dead.
Don't be dead.
Yeah, right. Rach, we're going to need your help here. New Zealand police say they have grave fears for the safety of a British backpacker who is missing in the country. Do you know any more?
Yeah, no, there's not much more that we know yet. But this person has been missing for a while. It's since the 1st of December. But they're in Auckland. I don't know how they would go missing in a place like Auckland. It's a metropolis. It's not, sort of. It's not New Zealand as you think of it, like Lord of the Rings kind of a situation. This is Auckland. It's like downtown Manchester. It's not a. It's just a city like any other.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what's going on.
Rescue her.
We just got a message from Lee's wife, Andrea. It's nice sitting on the stairs.
And she's outside the studio. Nobody's let her in. just quickly on this story, then I shall go and rescue the redoubtable Andrea. Her father has flown out. He's a very, very well-off chap, and he's flown out there to try and orchestrate a search for it. It sounds very ominous and very frightening. It's something that, like Rachel says, it can't really happen in that kind of place. And there is CCTV of her and of her last journey around the area, and it just talks about backpacking. What is there? And her dad, I feel so sorry for that man who's there. I shall be back.
Okay, Paris police have urged shops and restaurants on the Champs-Elysees to close ahead of yet more protests going on in France. A woman is suing Hilton Worldwide for $100 million after secretly recorded footage of her naked in a shower appeared on a porn site with a blackmailer behind it. And the thing that gets me is that they've swept the hotel for cameras, can't find any, aren't any, blah, 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 and yet they're suing the hotel rather than the blackmailer. And I don't get that, Rach.
Yeah, I sort of do get it. Because the hotel's responsible and has a duty of care for you when you stay with them, and you have the right to privacy. You enter it. It's a contract that we all enter into whenever we check into a hotel. You agree not to throw their telly out the window. They agree that you won't have some pervert looking at you in the shower. It's a real simple contract that we have. So I understand that she would sue them. I would do the same. I would sort of, I guess, be looking for the blackmailer, but I'd be more interested in finding out how this happened to me in the first place.
Yeah, I kind of would as well. But there you go. Interesting one. Doctors and nurses.
Hope she wins.
I kind of do and I kind of don't. I think it's wrong, totally. But by the same token, I'm just wondering if the lady that's qualified as a lawyer in the US isn't looking for that big meal ticket. But there you go.
I mean, you're in the US. It's it. They
absolutely.
Live to
Come over here and sue me, dear. Nurses and doctors in Irish hospitals have been urged not to call patients love or dear.
That's so wrong. This is PC gone mad again, Uncle Eric.
It is, isn't it?
Uncle, do you know what? Whenever I've been in hospital and I don't feel well and I feel terrible and I'm, sort of in and out of, consciousness or whatever, there's nothing more comforting than a nurse. Preferably, I mean, now that I'm getting a bit older, it's probably not so great for me. But when I was younger, if an older nurse came and gave me fixed my sheets and gave me a drink and called me love, I thought that was terrific.
Yeah, but now you're just waiting
the best medicine.
But you're just waiting for the young doctors to give you a hug now.
Yeah.
Well, last time I was in Ireland, they called me a big horror. Somebody came up to me and says, big horror.
If you were living in Ireland, mate, they call you a blow-in.
Call me a what?
A blow-in.
What are you pointing at that big black thing for?
Because you're supposed to talk into the microphone. It's radio, don't you know? Rach, are you ready to follow on for this?
Oh, dear.
Well, yes, I am. I'm just going to flick to the right page because all of a sudden it's gone wonky.
Ready, Rach? Ready?
Yes. Yes.
Baby,
yes.
it's cold outside.
I must go away.
But baby, it's cold outside.
I really can't stay.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There is nothing sexist about this song.
Of course there isn't.
Well, it's not about that. It's about setting it up for date rape, I think, is the thing that everybody's concerned about. But I mean, who sang it in the first? Was it Bing Crosby?
No.
What, who's banned it?
No, it wasn't Bing Crosby who sang it.
Oh, no, it's Dean Martin.
No, it was before Dean Martin, because it was a French actor.
Oh, 1942, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a French actor in about early 40s.
I knew it was, Yves Montand.
It was.
Yeah.
And you know what? And he's not a date raper, I'll wager.
No.
And you know what? The lady who he sang it with, she had no fear of being raped. And this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you think back to classical music, and some of the thing that goes on in Romeo and Juliet, for example.
You can't ban Romeo and Juliet.
That's my point. That's exactly my point. The lovies go, oh, it's Shakespeare, that's wonderful. And yet, because it's a Christmas song, they go, oh, that's terrible. Oh, you can't do that. What? That is such double standards.
There is a line in Romeo and Juliet, though, isn't there? Where she says, look at the balcony on that.
What?
While I do support you in the ridiculousness of this stupid thing about this song, Uncle Eric, I've got to say that, you know, being a lovey who, as you call it, which really irritates me, P.S., but being a lovey who likes Shakespeare doesn't make you a moron who hates things and wants to slap political correctness. The PC thing here is coming from a bunch of morons.
But I want to get lovey into the Australian language, like numpty.
Well, I tell you what, it's like the Australian borders, mate. You got to get past me,
yes,
the boat,
yes,
and then we'll talk about it. You got numpty, leave it alone.
All right,
Rach. This is a true story about Mr. Eric Norman Wiltshire and his knowledge of popular artistry. And when he calls you a lovey, let's put this. There is a song where there's a load of children dressed as sharks bouncing up and down, doing silly dances and things. Yes. And Mr. Wiltshire said, this is a piece of genius. This is a piece of modern culture. I put on the fact that the Flaming Lips did it back in 1976 and put the video on, showing them dressed in funny costumes and playing exactly the same tune. The whole thing shut down. Nobody says, oh, we're wrong. So there you have popular culture, Mr. Wiltshire.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah.
But you know what? It's probably
don't do a shark face.
Argue about this for let's not argue about it for the 900th time.
No, that's right.
Let's say that this is just absurd, and it's a great song, and it's absurd.
And anyway, we're going to play it on the radio station.
Yeah, and I'm going to play it as well.
Yeah. The global stock markets. I keep saying to people, watch what's going on in the world. And they go, oh no, don't do that, because the finance chief. Hawaii was arrested in Canada. Yeah. The stock markets went into meltdown.
Yeah,
it knocked billions off the price.
Yeah.
And people don't get this. You have to look outside the box to see what's going on, because it can have an impact on your mortgage in another country, zillions of miles away.
Is that why
you know what you got to do, everybody? You know what you got to do? Do you know how I amassed my millions and millions of dollars?
Go on.
You got to play the long game.
Yes, indeed so. Rach, we're coming back to you. Chris Dawson, the husband charged with murder in the podcast mystery.
This is a fascinating story, and it's been on the tip of everyone's lips for a very long time. This lovely woman, Lynette Dawson, disappeared in 1982. And everybody's talking about it. It was one of those real big mysteries that never got solved. So they found some stuff, and they discovered that this husband of hers, Chris Dawson, was this nefarious dingling. But he had a teacher. He was a teacher. He had a student who idolised him, and then went on to do all these really cool podcasts and stuff. And in the midst of him hunting down this story, he found out that his hero was actually a bit of a nefarious dingling. But they did arrest Chris Dawson the other night. They've arrested him and charged him with her murder.
Blimey.
It's in 1982. Like, it's such a long time.
Wow.
It's nice to put it to rest, I would think.
That's absolutely phenomenal when you think that somebody's kept that case open that long.
Yeah, well, the police were dogged. They would not let it go. And, of course, many police have since retired since this case opened, and they've all come back to sit in court. And it's really very satisfying for all of them, and for her daughter, who's a really lovely girl by all accounts, and has had this overhanging her entire young life. And it's just fascinating to me that they managed to never give up, look at the evidence, go over and over, and they were not going to stop till they got their man, and they got him.
There you go. Facebook's chief's emails have been exposed by the MPs again, and I've got divided sort of views on this one. It's the UK Parliament that have been going into this fake news thing about Facebook, and they've got hold of some stuff which is marked highly confidential. And Facebook have got the ump. And in my opinion, Facebook have got the ump quite rightly because somebody has just said, oh, well, this is parliamentary privilege, I'll let it all out then. And I kind of wonder whether it's the tail wagging the dog.
Well, why do you think it's wrong? What, in simple terms, are the MPs saying that Facebook has done wrong?
Fake news.
Yeah, and what they're saying is that they've got a white list of people who they will share our details with and a list of people they won't. Now, bear in mind that in the next couple of weeks, the Consumer Watch Foundation is going to do a very in-depth article about Facebook, and we'll probably be kicked off Facebook after it comes out.
Nah, you won't.
Facebook have an incredible access to our lives, and what they're doing is manipulating our lives. That wasn't the agreement when we all went on and signed up to share our photographs and share our thoughts. That wasn't the deal, that Facebook could actually manipulate our lives and monetize our lives and our information. And I think because of that's where Facebook broke the contract with everybody on this planet who's involved with them. And so parliamentary privilege should be used to investigate and look into what they're
I agree.
doing.
It should be used to investigate. Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
Well, that's Parliament, not parliamentary privilege. The privilege is to tell the world about it.
That's the difference. There's a line. There's a line.
Why shouldn't the world know? It's the world. It's the world's information that Facebook is playing with.
Should the world know what is in your bank account right now?
That's a different thing. It's not being shared with the world. Facebook are making money.
Well, you are in a position now where you can talk to every country in the world. You give your opinions out to all countries in the world.
Yeah, but I'm using a platform. I've not created the platform. That's the difference. I've not created a platform for sharing like Facebook has, and I'm not trying to make money out of private information. I'm
having a nightmare.
What, you're having a rethink, aren't you?
No, I'm having a nightmare.
That's a dark horse.
That's a nightmare. I'm just thinking of you building the platform for this studio to work on.
It'd be brilliant. I'd do it out of Lego.
I'm having a
and a bit of Mikado.
I'm having a nightmare because there's if my bank details got released, everybody would just die laughing. Half the population would be gone.
Yeah, I get a comment from Chris here, which is quite relevant. Trouble is, my thoughts might be my opinion.
Yes.
If someone disagrees, then it becomes fake news. And I get your point, Chris.
I can see what you're saying, Chris. I think that's a very, very good point. Because Chris, you have an opinion.
You've outswung Lee and I completely today.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect thing. But it is a different argument. This isn't about what opinion is and how Facebook creates fake news.
It has to be because, for example, I joked last night that I got blocked by an American radio station owner, which I thought was highly hysterical. And he was rabbiting on about
stuff. You've been naughty again.
I know, but I did actually say, and this is where it backfired on him a bit, that because he said, "You don't know anything about me." I did. I just Googled him. It was easy. And prior to that, I'd actually put onto this radio group on Facebook. I think we might have to excuse everything above because I'm in Europe and you're in America, and it's two totally different marketplaces. And that is one of the huge problems with Facebook, that I can blather on about, well, luckily I could go rabbiting on about the FCC, which is the regulator in America. But the guy that was talking to me, he clearly had no idea what I was talking about. And a lot of it is similar to Australia. The reason digital doesn't work so well in those countries is because of geographical size. Now,
that's right.
You know, it's simple physics. But this bloke wouldn't have it, and he was going on and on and on, alarming. And I in the end, well, after he called me an a-hole.
Oh, how rude!
Better than being a b-hole.
Well, that's true. I ranted at him, and he blocked me.
Listen, though, we've got to be serious.
And this is what the point... No, my point is that Facebook is like that because one person's opinion, or especially perfect silly example. Blokes.
Blokes.
Right, we call the colour...
Oh, they're silly for sure.
Thank you. We call the colour of a dress blue.
Yeah.
The girlies say, no, it's not. It's blue turquoise or something daft.
Yeah. So we've got it wrong. But no, but
Why have we got it wrong?
because it's turquoise, not blue, because the lady said.
Oh, come on.
But
really?
let's be
you got to know
serious.
why you got it wrong? Do I have to explain it? We haven't got time.
But I can explain this in one simple sentence, right? Facebook share all our information. Everything that we put on there, and they find from all over the place, from all different apps, from phones, from everything, they share our information and get really upset when Parliament shares theirs.
Funnily enough, and I'll give you my one, and I'll clean this up because the way our chairman says it and the way I'm going to say it to you. Do we then, Hanker?
Do we then?
Peckney weekend, Hanker. And...
I'm that.
Stop it.
I'm talking.
I'm just trying to clean this up in my head. Never put anything on the internet unless you're happy for it to bite you on the bum for decades to come.
Is that the a-hole?
Sort of. Because it's a fact.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, you don't put things on Facebook which you're going to be embarrassed about later.
No, you shouldn't.
Because
you do. People do.
But you shouldn't, guys. Just have one little light bulb moment of thought before you post it onto Facebook.
But 15 years ago, people didn't know that. And all the stuff they put on 15 years ago is still there.
Well,
it's been a learning curve for the last 20
but
years.
I've been saying that since the early 90s.
Yeah, but not everybody has the same thought process as you.
But
this is about people. This is about everybody, from Mrs. Blogs down the road to superhumans like Mark Zuckerberg. This is the whole gamut of society is exposing itself and being used by Facebook. And Facebook hate the fact that when somebody exposes what they're doing, it's as simple as that. Get lost, Facebook. You're a load of...
But it was the same with Google the other week, wasn't it? When everybody went on strike.
What? No. What about when we made everybody go? That's the truth. We made everybody stand up and shut down Facebook for an hour. And there was hundreds of people did it for us for an hour. And you know what? I don't think Facebook even noticed.
They would.
They would in a logarithm.
Oh, look at the time. Oh, my goodness. We better talk about something else.
Okay. Yes. Rach, you've got a minute and a half to talk about the mafia in Australia.
Yeah, thanks. This is really important, and now I've got a minute. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, there's the gangland murders in Australia ran from about end of the 90s to not that long ago, and many criminals from different gangs were murdering each other in the streets. It was quite appalling. And there's lots of cool miniseries that actually Uncle Lee would enjoy that you can watch and get the whole history of it. But one of the defence lawyers turned police informant. And that's fine, but the problem was that she was telling information that she gained under lawyer-client privilege. So now all these dirty criminals that were put in prison can now technically be released.
So it was a kangaroo court.
She broke privilege. So all that evidence that they obtained was done under dodgy circumstances. So now they've launched a royal commission into the entire proceedings. She's been chucked in witness protection, and the whole thing is a great huge mess. Now these are very dangerous people that we don't want out of jail. And yes, they did very bad things, so they probably won't be released. But the technicality is that it was all done under privilege, and now she's gone and blown the whistle.
Yep, there you go. You got to be careful with all this sort of stuff. Rachel, what are you up to the weekend, love?
Nothing. I'm doing nothing. I'm not going to work, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to lie. I'm going to make the Christmas pudding.
Are you?
Are you indeed?
Yeah.
You're going to put lots of black beer in it?
My great-granny's recipe. No, it's brandy.
Oh, we love that. Oh, we love
brandy, the brandy one.
So if we hear you in 2 weeks' time going, oh, it's really good that
that means you've drunk your Christmas cake.
Yes.
No, that means I've had a stroke because I don't drink.
Oh, this is very true. Lee, what about yourself?
I have no idea. I'm going to just do things.
Oh, all right then. Well, it's time for you to say that time for you. Yes, Rach.
Goodbye, Rach.
Goodbye, Rach. Oh, my Lord. Bye-bye, darling. And
bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
That was Sooty saying it as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week till next week. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Coming up next, it's Steve the Train Bishop on Radio Tatras International. We'll be back in just under a week's time, less an hour, if that makes any sense. Something like that, anyway. Christmas starts on Monday. Don't forget, Christmas actually starts this coming Monday on RTI, and we will be playing Baby It's Cold Outside. From Poprad to Portsmouth, this is Radio Tatras International.